Spider-Man had a bad day. Why did it happen? And how were they able to recover so quickly? Disney has finally done something with the Tomorrowland entrance. Meanwhile, the Paradise Pier entrance to DCA is open and we've got a walkthrough, plus updates on Radiator Springs Racers, Downtown Disney, and Finding Nemo, all coming up next on Fresh Baked. Hi guys, David here with Fresh Baked with updates on projects going on around the Disneyland Resort, and we're going to start with the, kind of amazing story of Spider-Man's crash at Avengers Campus. If you haven't seen the video yet, it's kind of shocking, but where the Spider-Man Stuntronic is supposed to land safely on top of this building here, on one occasion, he did not. Crashed he did, right into the side of the building with a very loud thud and causing what looked to be quite a lot of damage to the building. And this looks like it would be devastating to the Spider-Man show, but would you believe that he was back up and running in practically no time at all and with no apparent actual damage to the building at all, or to Spider-Man? So why did he crash, and how was it they were able to get things going again so quickly? We'll start with the crash, and I think it's clear right away when looking at the footage that Spidey never detached from the launching tether. That tether is part of the apparatus that helps to launch Spidey up in the air. And when it reaches its maximum launch point, its apex, it's supposed to detach, and Spider-Man goes into a natural, free-flying launch. The rest is up to gravity at that point. But it stays attached, and while it doesn't completely snap Spider-Man back, there's plenty of slack in that cable. There is enough resistance to slow Spider-Man's momentum, just enough to shorten his launch distance, therefore landing short of his usual landing spot. And it looks like it also impacted his flight, I don't know what you want to call that, style. Normally there's, some fun rotations, or even more fun, like a purposely botched rotation, an intentional crash, as it were. In this case, the rotations are clearly affected by the attached tether. So that's why he crashed, and it looks really bad, but it turns out, not so much, not at all in fact. Neither to Spider-Man or to the building. The reason is that Disney was ready for this. Those slats that Spider-Man crashed into, turns out they're breakaway slats. And breakaway in this case meaning that they're designed not to be tough and durable like any building normally would be, but actually to be weak and breakable. They're meant to fall apart when crashed into like this. And they're assuming at some point Spider-Man is going to crash. In fact, I'd assume they're not even steel or metal or anything like that. Think of the weakest, softest material possible that could also hold up under years of sun, wind, and rain. We don't see them break, but rather collapse, folding in on itself into the building's upper surface. They bent. They didn't break. And because of this, they don't have to replace them anytime there's a crash. They just put them back in. Meanwhile, no damage done at all to the Spider-Man Stuntronic either, because what he impacted absorbed it all. It absorbed all that weight and power, rather than fighting back against him the way that concrete or steel would. The result? Spider-Man, the building, and the show are stage ready in practically no time at all. Bravo, Disneyland. Good show. Now, I am less impressed, though, with the most recent updates to the planters at the entrance to Tomorrowland. Let's wind it back. There used to be the infamous French fry rocks. Most people hated them. Then Disney gave us this concept art that promised a much more colorful and imaginative entrance. French fry rocks were removed, grass installed. That is, while we wait for them to finish whatever the project was. Oh, and except for those green walls. But surely they'll get to that in due course, right? That was almost 3 years ago. Then recently the grass was dug up and they put wood chips in their place. And then there was a sign that promised more color was coming. Now, I had low expectations. We hoped that the reference to color was to the promised color from 2019 in the concept art. But since the Tomorrowland remodel looks to not be happening anytime soon, it was a fair assumption that they wouldn't even finish the entrance project. Well, last week we got our answer: succulents and a somewhat colorful bush, I guess. Now, don't get me wrong, if there had never been concept art before this, I probably would be quite happy with this plan of thinking it's a fine improvement over the plain grass or the French fry rocks. It looks okay. Meanwhile, the wood chips and succulents, they don't require very little maintenance at all, while at the same time, being, I would imagine, a visual improvement over just plain grass. So I approve of the planter for the planter's sake. Except there's this: the green walls are still up, and those are construction walls, mind you, the kind of thing that's supposed to be temporary. But I understand whatever it is that's behind those green walls cannot be easily removed or replaced. But surely they had a plan when they made that concept art. They had a plan for whatever it is behind those walls. But the problem is, what's on that wall can be removed. The actual literal concept art showing us what was promised with the actual literal result right there in the same frame. I said in our podcast yesterday that I think Disney's trolling us. I mean, I know they aren't actually, not literally or with intent, but it sure does feel like it because this is kind of a joke. It's kind of a joke having those walls up. That those walls, by the way, now they feel like a feature. That's part of the built-in landscape now. It's no longer a temporary thing. It's not a bug, it's a feature. I just find the whole situation kind of comical. But in the end, in a few weeks, we'll all move along and everything will be fine. But that concept art will still be on that wall. So maybe Disney kind of let it go. Just take it down. Just take the concept art down. I'll probably stop yelling. Anyway, let's go to DCA next, where recently Radiator Springs Racers underwent a week-long shutdown due to some technical issues with the vehicles and the track. Last week, the ride was reopened for guests, only for it to go down again for a few days. Apparently, two vehicles crashed into one another. I guess that's what happened right at launch. Not a big deal, though, as it turns out. In fact, I think this has happened before. But I'm only bringing this up now because maybe Disney should reconsider their decision not to put the attraction under a more, thorough refurb like they do for Indiana Jones and Splash Mountain. Because that's two issues in, 2-week span? Meanwhile, since we're in DCA, let's check in on the now open entrance to DCA for guests of the Paradise Pier Hotel. The path is done, ready for guests. I hung around for a bit in front of the Corndog Castle to see how many guests came through the entrance. Not very many, it turns out. I'm guessing it's not a widely known feature at the moment. But we were able to find this footage of the complete walk from the Paradise Pier Hotel to the new entrance. Guests will need to scan their room key at the beginning of the path in order to get through a gate. So that means there's no chance for anyone from the other hotels in the immediate area. They're not going to be able to use this entrance. Just Paradise Pier Hotel guests with a room key. And if you are, in the future, a guest of the Paradise Pier Hotel and have a chance to use this entrance, send us an email to david@freshbakedisney.com. Let us know what you think about it. Do you feel taken care of? Does this make your trip to the parks a little bit more pleasant? For now, let's go back into DCA where some new walls have popped up. We got these walls over by the Bodine Bakery Tour. And then these walls here in front of the bridge to the Pacific Wharf. In both cases, it's the usual stuff, I'm sure. Concrete, maybe some stuff below grade, nothing dramatic. Oh, by the way, I did forget this. We know about the refurb going on at Seaside Souvenirs. We covered that a couple weeks ago. We mentioned in a previous update that they were replacing wallpaper with actual paint, which is great. I love this. I've also been advised that the lighthouse lights were repaired as well. Now, I wasn't fully aware that they weren't working. It's not a thing that I paid attention to in the past, but apparently that is the case. Those lights were not working, at least not working correctly. But I was able to confirm that they are now working. They look great, of course. Have I ever mentioned how much I love lighting effects? They are my favorite. Meanwhile, I got this footage while watching World of Color, by the way, and I'll mention now that I've been doing some recon on how to see this show, World of Color, via standby if you don't get a virtual queue, which is going to be the case for a lot of you when you try. I've done a lot of recon on how to see this via standby, and I've seen some pretty impressive results, pretty amazing results from what I've been able to do. Can't wait to show you everything we've learned. Stay tuned for that. It's coming up soon. In the meantime, I have actually created a vlog. I posted a vlog on Patreon of our most recent recon trip. So if you want to get like a sneak peek, look at a rough draft of what we saw that night, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/freshbaked. But we will be putting out a formal video with all of the, everything we've learned on the Fresh Baked proper as well. Until then, let's head back to Disneyland to take a peek at the Pirates of the Caribbean entrance. That's all we can see right now. Haven't had any over-the-wall shots of late. In our last update from here, we saw that they had completely dug up all the concrete and there was nothing but dirt. But today we can see that new concrete has been put in, both in that, the main walkway on the way in where that dark gray concrete is, as well as in the formal entrance area with where that beige stamped concrete is, which I'm assuming it's stamped concrete anyway. I'm also going to assume this means the rest of the exterior queue has finished with concrete that looks like this as well. And we're about 2 weeks away from Pirates reopening, that's going to be very exciting. New Orleans Square is not the same without Pirates, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how the attraction mixes in with the changes, like with Tarzan's treehouse to its right and the New Orleans Square walkways to its left. I'm really interested to see how all these things work together, in one big environment. So stay tuned again to Fresh Baked, as I'll be taking a very close look at this and to see what observations we can make, maybe try to discern what Disney's endgame has been with all of these changes. I can't wait to look at this. And with that, we'll close with another ride on the monorail. Is the downtown Disney hole getting bigger? It's hard to say. I can't tell. But otherwise, nothing new to report here, I don't think. And as for Finding Nemo, again, looks about the same as before, though I did hear from a fan, Jeffrey had updated us in another video that he saw on the Mattercam that they were testing the subs, and there it is. That is a Nemo sub in motion as of 9:50 Wednesday morning. Very exciting. I don't know why. That made me really happy seeing that sub drift by there. And that's what you get at Fresh Bake, man. Always the best updates from your friends here. And thanks to our friends out there who are giving these updates. We're very grateful. So do always, of course, be sure to stay tuned to Fresh Baked. And until next time, follow us on Instagram at _Fresh Baked, on Twitter at Fresh Baked Disney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at Fresh Baked Disney. If you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.